So what we doing?
Well, look, you come here week in, week out, every Wednesday, and you know the booker. You bring in people. I've gone through half the crew with fucking bringers. I brought O'Brien last week. He's had a great time. He got everyone whiskey. But no, one of the bridge crew wants to come down. One who I will point out doesn't have a functioning understanding of the emotion of humour, right? Suddenly he's top billing. It's disgraceful. I've worked hard for a 10-minute spot. I've got some brilliant stuff about the fact they won't put a safety rail around the warp core.
Can't say anything these days, mate. What you want to be doing is getting yourself on the right-wing comedy night down on 12 forward.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You can call the Ferengis whatever you want. Because they don't let anyone film it.
I could finally do that bit about how I identify as a Klingon.
Yeah.
And that means I can lift more.
Exactly. Yeah, I identify as a Klingon bird of prey. Do it.
Yeah.
No one's going to stop you.
But who's booking that night? It's not Jensen, is it?
No, it's Troy. She's quite a dark horse.
Podcasts. A Frontier. These are the voyages of Mark and Ellie. Our ongoing mission to explore strange new episodes, to seek out new jokes and new references, to split infinitives that no one has split before. Captain Slog, Stardate 28. These are the continued voyages. I'm Eddie Edwards, as always. I'm joined by Mark O'Neill. Mark, how you been?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I've been playing a lot of Tom Clancy's The Division 2.
Is that any good?
It's imagine like a right-wing power fantasy in the form of a game.
Yeah, isn't the power fantasy just being a vaguely competent man?
I play a woman on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because, and that's not out of like a sense of wokeness. Other players tend to give you things. They think you're a woman, so I do it because it makes the game easier, and I don't like challenges.
I would imagine that the post-apocalypse is going to be just really the easiest of times for women.
Yeah, it really is. It's honestly, being a woman is playing life on easy mode. I don't know. I don't know what they're complaining about.
Yeah, that was very much the plot of Fury Road. I'm just saying, they were indoors and it was warm. They were given water. Everybody else was fucking roughing it. Fucking Jesus Christ. But it's a little bit grateful, lasses.
It's like, yeah, but I don't really particularly like the Tom Clancy games. The only reason I'm playing it is because I like post-apocalypse survival-ish things, except for again, The Last of Us, which I don't particularly like. And the shooting mechanics are quite fun. I quite like them, and I do like a tactical-based shooter. But the story of it is bonkers. So in The Division, basically an environmental terrorist, to which already I'm like, alright, let's see where this is going. An environmental terrorist drops like a smallpox bomb on like several smallpox bombs all over the world, right? In some vain attempt to kill the population or something. I'm not really sure. I'm not in it for the story, Eddie, if you can't tell. But so he does this, and then we discover that the US government has set up a program called The Division, right? Which might as well just be called Libertarianism, the Dream, TM, right? Basically, it's a civilian militia force where it's a secret civilian militia force where anyone can be a member as long as they have guns and some semblance of military training, and they act as like sleeper agents. And then one day the government will send out like a signal on your watch that says, "Oh, you've been called up. You are now. It's time to go and kill some poor people." Because the thing is, right, when you
It's
play
like a modern day Dad's Army. It's just
yeah, I guess so. But the problem with it is there's no defined bad guy in it. No, there is a defined bad guy. That's the thing. Like the guy who set off the bombs is ostensibly the bad guy, right? But
you're not going to kill him. He's long gone.
Yeah, but the bad people that you shoot are just people who, after the US government wasn't able to avert a fucking smallpox bomb, are just like, maybe we should put our trust in ourselves, and who like rise up against the government. So it's like a rough coalition of like gangs and civilian militias, but they don't have any motivation other than they are poor. It's essentially a poor person murder simulator.
Yeah, you never hear the people who say keep politics out of video games never complain about The Division, which I think the first Division has a bit where it's like literally says, oh, the only survivors are people who owned guns, because if you didn't own a gun, you'd die. And it's like, that's not a political statement. And it's like you got to keep politics out of video games. I'm fine with it being libertarian power fantasy, pro gun ownership. What I mean when I say keep politics out of video games is gay people. I don't care. Like, is it more political to have a gay couple in a video game than it is to literally have the entire basis of your game be libertarians are right, everyone else is wrong?
So if you search online, the head of development of the Division 2 is specifically like, we are taking politics out of video games. Like, this is a completely apolitical video game, right? And the way that they
more political,
and the way that they show that in their libertarian wet dream poor people murder simulator is that one of the first main characters that you meet is a black disabled woman, which is like, wait a minute, isn't that what all the Facebook comments are like? Oh, why isn't this just box ticking? Like, so it aren't. Like, I mean, I don't know what point I'm trying to get across here, but you're trying to make it not political by taking what you think that we think politics is and inserting it into your fucking right-wing fantasy game.
And I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm gonna throw this out there as like, this might not be the most woke thing I've ever said, but I'm gonna throw this out there. If you are specifically making a video game about the collapse of Western civilization, I think, and this might sound like you're a shitty person, it's actually fine to include as a plot point, oh, all the disabled people died because we didn't have the infrastructure to support them. And it's shitty, but it's more realistic, and it also brings attention to a broader fucking point.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
If you're like, so if you're in a wheelchair and you're suddenly in a society that doesn't think putting ramps in places is important, you're probably fucked.
Oh no, she has a prosthetic leg. No, she can't be the level of disabled where they have to like
where it'd be a problem,
deface classic buildings to put ramps in and things. Like it has to be the same type of disabled where, you know, my character in the game who doesn't have a voice, the only thing I presume she will say is, yeah, but it's only a prosthetic leg, like, you can still work. Has to be like she can't be blind. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, you can, I'll do your deal, you can push your shopping cart filled of survival supplies right up next to the supermarket that we're going to raid, and I'll put mine slightly further away. Yeah,
and again, it's weirdly socialist as well, because all of the left behind luggage and backpacks and suitcases that all of the people without guns were taking on their evacuations through the city before they were presumably gunned down by the United States government. You're just entitled to that. You can just take that stuff.
Yeah,
that's the loot system in it.
I want a game like that to just go all out though. Like, I want the loot system to be, oh, you've opened the suitcase, here are the 6 useful items, here is a child's diary, you can keep that if you want, or you can throw it away. You can read it, like, just real heartbreaking shit, like, oh, like, here's a picture of two people getting married on, like, in Central Park. Oh, isn't that lovely? They're dead.
Oh, and the currency in it is Bitcoin.
Are you?
Well, it's not Bitcoin per se, because I guess that's copyrighted, but it's e-dollars or e-coins or something.
But no politics in there, Mark.
And the symbol of the currency is a bee. which is weird because they're in America.
If you say when we're removing politics from our video game, what you mean is we're removing the politics that what we assume the gamers find objectionable, which is anything that wouldn't be in either the manifesto of a white supremacist killer or a cover letter to work for Tucker Carlson, which are basically the same thing.
Yeah. It's just that the manifesto's too long for him to read.
They might as well have called the game Replacement Theory, for fuck's sake. It's the game really goes out its way to like not have anyone be a straight white man. Yeah, but that's not addressing the issue, which is that you made a libertarian's wet dream into a fucking video game. Oh god,
it's so bizarre.
It's like have you seen the tool that Activision have made for like all of their making characters for their video games, where it's got sliders for diversity, which might not sound bad to start with, but let me explain. That means that you can have a character graded from a 1 to a 5 on ethnicity. So let me ask you an important question, Mark. What's a 0 on ethnicity and what's a 5? What did a group of people at Activision? They've not given an answer to this, but like because the people are like, what's the most ethnic Activision? like you slide it all the way up to that, and it's like, oh, you're half Inuit.
My friend Jamie and I once upon a time nearly scored ourselves a pitch to Sony to make a video game, and we ended up, unfortunately it all kind of fell through, but the guy that got us that opportunity was I don't want to dob him in. He was part of the South Park games, you know, the 2 recent South Park games. And he said there's a mechanic in the South Park games that Trey and Matt specifically asked us to put in, and no one really knows about it. Like, no one seems to have figured it out yet. But if there is no difficulty selection in South Park: The Stick of Truth, but there actually is a hidden one if you choose a black kid. The game is harder. Oh man, I laughed at that for ages. But he was like, yeah, we were specifically asked to put that in. That's genius.
That's up there with. I love stuff like that. Have you ever heard of, like, so do you know the thing about, I think it's Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, if you put your intelligence to 0, it's basically a different game.
Yeah.
Like, you can like there's a bit where like you run across some like a robot and it asks you for a password, and if you don't give the right password it will start shooting. Now if you've got like high enough science or intelligence, you can like work out the password or hack the computer to get the password. But if you've got an intelligence of 1, you can just shout ice cream, which by fluke happens to be the right password. Oh,
excellent.
Should we talk about Star Trek then?
Yeah,
I like this one.
I like this one.
It's got its problems.
Yeah.
But I liked it. It's nice to have a fucking episode of Star Trek that I assume this is how smart people feel, like people who do things like science and stuff. But we got to watch an episode of Star Trek in which I could consider myself a subject matter expert. It's fucking stand up. It's like, yeah, no, I know about that. It's like, yeah, like there's a lot of stuff in this. Like, there's a bit where there's a joke happens and Whoopi Goldberg's like, oh, it'd take too long to explain why that's funny. And I was like, no, it wouldn't. It's real easy to explain that. That's a really simple, basic joke, Whoopi, and you should know that as a comedian.
Yeah, I really like that this has my new favourite Star Trek character in it.
Is it Okona?
No, it's stand-up comedian Joe Piscopo. So the plot of this episode is basically the Enterprise picks up a top lad. And the whole way through, you're like, when is the penny going to drop? When are we going to learn why this guy is a terrible person? And I mean, he never is. He's a top lad literally till the very end of the episode.
Yeah, the episode is basically what would happen if the crew... It's basically somebody wrote down and went, what if the crew of the Enterprise ran into Han Solo.
That is literally exactly what I said to Laura.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, sorry.
Han Solo was played by the Rocketeer.
It took me so long to figure out that's who it was. Cliff Seacrest. So I need to do a quick corrections corner.
Okay.
A few episodes ago, I implied that my lovely fiancée Laura picked up the ability to figure out what an A plot and a B plot is in storytelling through osmosis of being around me as I've talked about television shows. And I just need to correct that and say she actually picked that up from the fact that she has a master's in musical theatre. And I'm just taking credit for what could be one of the most basic levels of storytelling.
Stay one, you come in, they're like, right, everybody put down your Sun Tzu. A and B plots.
What do you think Sun Tzu had to say about A plots and B plots?
If you master your A plot, your B plot will follow naturally. I don't know.
Boom. Done.
Yeah. I've read Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Have you?
Just because I wanted it. It was one of those things where it's actually quite a short book. You can read it in like an hour or two.
Yeah.
Because it's all that, it's all little phrases and stuff like that. And I just wanted to have a look through. And so there's things like, I wonder what cunts think is important. But it's basically just saying, you should make sure you know everything about an upcoming situation. As long as you've researched it thoroughly, you'll probably do all right.
Yeah.
That's the entirety of it.
I once read a book called The Art of Kung Fu, which I bought when I was about 15, when I was getting... I don't know, man, is 15 like the appropriate age to become obsessed with Kung Fu and stuff like that, and sort of Eastern mysticism and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I bought a book called The Art of Kung Fu, thinking that it would tell me how to do Kung Fu. It wasn't. It was basically Sun Tzu, The Art of War, but written specifically about Kung Fu. It was just the guy I presume it was a guy who wrote it. It was just the guy had recontextualized everything that Sun Tzu says, but it was like the dude Di Ching.
Oh yeah.
Which I also have read, which is the Dao Di Ching, but paraphrased to be about the Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
Which I heartily recommend. It's actually a very relaxing book.
There's a really good book that's Jeff Bridges hung out with a Zen Buddhist master, and he was like, oh no, the dude is widely considered as a Zen icon, and they hung out and chatted for a weekend. I was like, oh, we should write a book.
Yeah.
And then they did, and it's apparently really, really good. But I've only ever seen one interview where he talks about it, and it was him on The Daily Show being interviewed by Jon Stewart. And it was one of those interviews where afterwards, Jon Stewart, before he did the moment of Zen, it was brilliant interview, absolutely enjoyed it, no idea what he's talking about.
Have you ever? Do you know? I mean, obviously, you know who Stevie Nicks is, right? From Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
So Stevie Nicks, quite famously, was fairly adverse to the public eye. She didn't really do a lot of interviews and stuff, and she didn't particularly love her photograph getting out there. And so after she left the band, she didn't really do much until her friend and I believe neighbour was writing a book about karate. And needed a model to do the karate moves for the photographs, so Stevie was like, yeah, I'll do it. And she doesn't get dressed up in karate gear, no, she goes full Stevie Nicks. Big 8-inch platforms and combed back hair and stuff, just performing Vulcan nerve pinches on... I don't know, man, I don't know much karate. I was too busy reading Sun Tzu in the form of Kung Fu.
I need to fucking track that down. That's fucking great.
It's a great book.
I want to discuss a particular highlight from this episode.
Go on.
And I think people, if we don't mention it, people will question us.
Oh, I know exactly what it is.
Yeah, 80s Terry Hatcher. Jesus Christ.
Aye.
Yeah.
Did you know?
It's another level. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Madness. Yeah. What else is there to say? If you haven't seen 1988 Terry Hatcher, Go and watch it. She's near the start of this episode.
And for a nerd like me, if you'd said to me, what would be your perfect version of 80s and 90s Terry Hatcher, my response would be, I mean, it's unlikely you've got a picture of her in a Star Trek uniform.
Because because at the start of the episode, it pings over to, I think Picard. I think we meet Okona, and then Picard says, "Transporter Chief," and then a woman's voice comes on the intercom, and I'm like,
and I was
hold
like,
on a minute.
oh, fuck this noise. Yeah.
Where's O'Brien?
Yeah.
And it turns out, hey, good replacement. Did you know she specifically asked for her name to be taken off the credits because they cut most of her filmed scenes?
Oh, okay. That's a shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah. Very much so.
Are you suggesting that this episode of Star Trek where Handsome Rogue comes on and bangs his way through half the crew wasn't the most forefront equal doing the best for women's equality? An episode in which Dr. Polanski, the only main female member of the cast, does not appear.
Troy appears.
Oh yeah, Troy has 2 lines.
Oh, by the way, as soon as Billy Campbell as Okona shows up on screen, Troy looks like she needs to put a towel under where she's sitting. Like,
my favourite bit of his character is when he arrives on the Enterprise to start with, and he goes and starts flirting with Terry Hatcher, and in the background, Riker of all people like rolls his eyes. Like, there's a lot throughout this episode of like Riker being like, he's a bit of a rogue, a bit of a cad bounding, and it's like he's you, Riker.
Yeah.
He's you, but with his own ship.
He's you if you hadn't joined Starfleet, and I really like that. I think that's a really clever idea. But did you know that there is another level to that?
Okay.
Based on the casting. So Billy Campbell, aka Cliff Seacrest, aka the Rocketeer, aka Captain Okona, was a candidate for the role of Riker.
Oh.
But Rick Berman said that he is too soft, and so the role went to Jonathan Frakes instead. He was a potential Riker.
I want to point out this was a clean-shaven Frakes they gave that to.
Yeah.
That's mental. But then I think he would have done great with the role, but I also think he would have probably sat in chairs normally, so I'm glad it didn't happen.
I agree. And then we would have caught in Jonathan Frakes as a sexy pirate smuggler.
Probably clean-shaven, because he only grew the beard. Yeah. That's a universe I don't want to live in.
No.
But so that's the plot with Okona. So we better actually explain it. Is his ship's broken down, so they pick him up and agree to like repair it, and then 2 ships turn up and they both want to arrest him, and one saying, oh, he stole like the crown jewels, and the other one saying, we got my daughter pregnant. And then at the end of the episode, it works out that he stole the crown jewels at the behest of one of the people's sons as his wedding proposal to the pregnant girl, because it's 2 separate planets. That's a thing. But the more important thing is that he gets in whilst on board the ship. He bangs like 3 of the crew, and also explains to Data that he doesn't understand what jokes are. So Data decides to pursue a career in comedy, which seems like a bad idea, but I've seen worse.
Yes.
I've seen worse at open mic nights. There's always one.
I quite like the Data comedy stuff.
Yeah.
I think it, and I'm glad that they finally gave Whoopi something to do, because she's not really. I mean, obviously it only has been 3 episodes of this season, but she's not had anything to do so far, and it's nice to have her given counsel.
She's still a special guest star, so I don't know if she's like specifically in every episode or if it's a case by case.
Does she ever get in the main credits?
I don't know, because I think they didn't want to. Because it's that thing of like, if you put her in, you have to use her in every episode, and there's a lot of stuff where it doesn't make sense for them to be in the bar. But I like this use of her Guinan as a character, because normally Guinan ends up just doing what Troy should be doing. Yeah. But Troy should not be wasting her time helping Data try a career in stand-up comedy.
Titan S5.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Can you imagine Commander Troy just going, Data? Look, at the end of the day, the secret to comedy is word economy, right? The fewest words you can say it in, the better. That's like people talk about timing. No.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
it. That's
you say
the
that,
secret.
but also, what you can also do is, if you're Stuart Lee, is you can take that advice and go very much in the opposite direction.
When Data went to when Data decides that he's gonna give it a try, he decides to go and learn from a stand-up comic. He goes to the holodeck to and he first asks like who holodeck computer, who do you think are the funniest people? And the first one that she recommends is a comedian from the 23rd century who exclusively jokes about quantum mechanics, which I'd quite like to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see. It's a bit niche, but if you can make it work.
Exactly.
The word economy and the setups on those jokes is going to have to be incredible. Like, you have to bring...
Because talk about niche. One of the kind of reasons that this podcast, part of the story of how this podcast came about, which you might not even know about, I don't know if you were involved, but one of the ways that this manifested itself is that back in the day, I mean, like 2018, when we were first hanging out, Josh Weller and I were going to do stand-up as if we were doing it on 10 Forward. So kind of how this happened, right? And the idea was we would both show up in full next-gen uniforms, and one of us would get up on the stage and the other one would just be in the audience. And all of the jokes would be in-universe Trek jokes.
Yeah.
And no one would get it except for the other guy who would just sit there pissing himself.
Yeah.
And it was just one of these things that just unfortunately never came to pass, but that kind of influenced us a little bit.
That's a great idea. Okay. One thing I do love about this episode is one thing I've made it clear on this podcast, I think, before, that my favourite types of jokes are the jokes where you have to have an insane amount of information previously in your head. It's why I love so much the shitting on Seth Green jokes from Family Guy. I love them so much. But this episode is the setup for a joke that doesn't get paid off until generations.
Really?
The line that he's trying to do when Data is trying to do the setup about the monkey, a man in a gorilla costume, a Ferengi, and a clone walk into a bar.
Yeah.
When he gets the emotion chip installed in Generations, there's a point in the episode where in the movie where he just starts to laugh hysterically. And somebody asks him why he's laughing, and he just goes, "You can stay, but the Ferengi in the gorilla suit's got to leave." And it's like, it's because he's only just got the punchline to the joke from this episode on an emotional level. And I was like, because as he said it, I was like, and then I was like, I'm certain that's at least one person sat in the room when they were writing that went, hold a minute.
Yeah.
I know of one occasion where Data was told a joke.
Apparently Joe Piscopo was given carte blanche to improvise everything. And I said to Laura, so when he's trying to tell Data a joke, he starts with the setup, as you should with all jokes. But then Data, because he obviously learns really fast, he says, "Computer, faster, fast forward," until it gets to the point where Piscopo is moving in quick motion, like if you're doing fast forward on a VCR, and you can't hear or tell what he's saying. And I was like, if I was the director of this episode, I would turn around to Joe and I would say, what is like the fucking dirtiest, grossest, like what is your Aristocrats? Like what? Like just the most depraved and disgusting thing. I want you to do that. We're going to film it, and we are technically going to put it on television. But because of the way that frame rates work, no one is ever really going to be able to piece together. It's not going to be like the backwards episode of Red Dwarf, where
it's like
Tim Key, if you actually play it backwards, he's just saying, why are you doing this? Why have you like? It doesn't matter what I'm saying.
He's calling you a sad loser for watching the episode backwards, and it's fantastic. It's like is it Chris Morris who stuck a single frame that says like the commissioning editor of Channel 4 is a cunt into an episode of Brass Eye.
There's quite a famous one in Father Ted where someone says fucking Father Ted and no one noticed, and it's so obvious. It's in the Were Sheep episode. Right. Okay. No, sorry, not the Were Sheep.
Sheep of the Year.
Sheep of the Year. And at the end, when they're all kind of, when the scandal comes out and they're all kind of going rabber, Graham Linehan herself said, no, that's not funny. I'm not going to misgender. That's literally what he does, right? Fuck that guy. He on the overdub goes, oh, what is it? I think it's oh fucking hell, or oh fuck that. And because he does it in like a slight Irish accent, it must have got through loads of editors, because it played on TV, and you can really hear it. And I think at the time you weren't allowed to say fuck on Channel 4 before 10.
That was because that was their thing. Was like they did the Red Dwarf thing. Was like, oh, if we say smeg, which if you think about it is objectively much more disgusting than any other swear word, we'll get away with it because it's not technically a swear word. And then Father Ted's take on that was, well, we could just say feck instead of fuck every time we want to say fuck, and it's fine.
I was listening to someone. I think, do you know who it was? Kurt Sutter, who is the guy who made Sons of Anarchy, and I think he had a lot to do with the Shield. And he said that in both the Shield and Sons of Anarchy, because they were on, what were they on? USA or something? Whatever network they were on didn't allow you to have fuck. So any time that someone says cocksucker, we ask the actors to read it like they're saying motherfucker.
Okay.
Or it's Jesus, Mary, and Joseph as well. If any character ever says Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, it was written in the script as like fuck. And they had the actors do that inflection on it, but that's kind of what they were going to say. I think Deadwood might be the same.
The one of my all-time favourites is Firefly, where all of the swearing is completely real swearing. It's just written in Chinese. Yeah. So that you can just get away with saying, like, son of a donkey fucking whore. Yeah. I oh man, it'd be great if like somebody could like find the original footage and slow it down, and he's just literally there saying, so there I am, fist deep in the Queen.
Yeah. I think someone's going to be fist deep in the Queen.
What did
if not in the last few weeks, certainly in the upcoming weeks. Get that all formaldehyde fucking enema up there, man.
She's hanging on. She's third at the moment. If you go look at the longest reigns of any monarch in history on Wikipedia, she's third by like skates. Like the top is like 72.5 years. So I guarantee she's holding on for it. Because the thing about like when you get to the Queen, it's like, well, how comes the Queen Mum lives so long? Because like what kills an old person is like falling over and pneumonia, and she's in a well-heated flat, and there's security standing around her at all times to make sure she doesn't keel over. That's it. Yeah. If we put a security detail next to every old person, they'd all last ages.
Yeah.
But what do you make of Joe Piscopo's list of things that are funny? Which is,
do you have them to hand?
I do. Tipper O'Neill in a dress, right. Briefcase shaped like a fish, and words that end in K. I don't
know about that, but
it might have something with the K, the hard consonant.
I will.
Cunt and fuck work so well.
I will defend the K.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that I actually think we may have discussed it on this podcast before. There is a comedy writing shortcut that's well known in the industry, especially among script writers, that 12 is the funniest number.
Yeah. Because
it's the highest number with the fewest amount of syllables. So that's why in the Marvel movies, it's always 12% of a plan or 12% of the lease. It's like the funniest number because it takes less time to say. Because again, word economy is literally the secret to comedy.
Apparently, Armando Iannucci and Chris Morris and Steve Coogan have been in an ongoing argument about what numbers are funniest for years now. Where Coogan insists that's why Lynn is 50, because he insists that 50 is like 2 consonants are funnier, whereas Iannucci thinks that you like having numbers that are long strings of numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas Coogan thinks it's short numbers that are like that are funny. Yeah.
How do you feel about 37?
It's too many syllables.
Because that's the Kevin Smith number.
Is it? 42, obviously, is the Hitchhiker's Guide one, which is a more absurdist. And I think like Python were, if you ask the Python what's a funny number, it'd be like 47.64987 and a third. You know, so but
according to Ghostbusters, the funniest number is 58.9. Because that's the atomic weight of cobalt. Yeah, the 37 one's really interesting because I always really liked 37, but because I was such a huge Kevin Smith fanboy for a long time, and I still really love his beginning stuff up to Clerks 2, which I think is fine. It would always be the number 37 would always be in it, and I can't remember if they only ever did this in Clerks, but for some reason it's burned into my brain that whenever anyone says the number 37, if I think they'll get it, I'm not just a lunatic who does this to everyone. If they say number 30, if they go 37, and I go, in a row? My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks in a row?
That scene is one of the greatest scenes in the history of when he trying to suck any more dick all the way across the parking lot, and the guy outside goes to follow her. I think that as well. One thing I do want to point out is assuming that the Star Trek is in fact the future, not just a TV show. It is a factually accurate the future. Data asks for a list of like funny people. So we can assume that list has a list of everybody that the computer thinks is funny up into the future. And there's a lot of names missing. I didn't see Nish Kumar on there. No James A. Caster. A lot of people got like Jim Jeffries, I would have figured. If you were making this now, I think Bill Burr. Yeah. If you're making this now, who'd you get as the comedian rather than Piscopo?
Genuinely, I think Bill Burr would do it.
Yeah, Bill Burr would be good.
Because we know he's a good actor, and we know he's up for doing sci-fi, and we know he's happy to play himself in sci-fi.
Yeah, I'd go.
I think the problem with Bill Burr is that Bill Burr, if he's playing a stand-up, can really only play himself, and you
can't do Bill Burr's material on Star Trek.
No, I imagine that Bill Burr, because I've listened to a lot of his podcasts and things, I imagine he's actually quite a chill guy. I think, and not to compare myself to Bill Burr, but I think him and I have like quite a similar outlook on the world and like kind of temperament and sensibility about things. But yeah, you can't do that. You can't.
See, it's like because personally, if I was going to pick like the funniest, who I think is the funniest person alive today, again, you can't have Doug Stanhope on Star Trek. It's
I don't know, man. I mean, James A. Caster can't act. Sorry, that was like a suable sentence. According to the movie Cinderella, James A. Caster can't act. There you go. I've saved myself there.
I have not seen James A. Caster in enough comedy performances to know whether or not he is a good actor. He's a very good stand-up comedian.
Yeah, very.
He's one of the best working today. But yeah, I'm with you. Here's one for you. Right, let's change this up. You have to cast a stand-up comedian in this role, but it has to be someone we actually know personally.
I mean, do you want it to be you? Is that what you're fishing for?
I want us to burn some fucking bridges.
Ashish.
Ashish would be good.
Yeah.
Meakin would be good as well. Meakin's done a lot of comparing and stuff, so he'd be all right. You did say you've not said your girlfriend.
Laura Donnelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd be right, yeah.
Yeah. Duffy Connors as well. Just beat the gong. Well done, Duff.
Yeah, good job, Duff. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. He doesn't listen.
No, he fucking...
I'll tell him we mentioned him by name in this one. Then he'll listen.
Yeah. So, by the way, I'm gonna warn you about this, and I'm gonna let you leave this in here, or you can choose to edit it out. My levels are gonna be all over the place on this episode.
Okay.
So just watch out for that, because I keep seeing... I don't know why. Usually the recording volume stays at one number, but today it keeps jumping up and down, and it's going into the red quite a lot.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
That's it. Done a clap for a cut point.
I'm gonna keep that in.
All right. Fair enough.
Well, I might keep it out. It depends. If you're listening to this, then I edited this whilst lazy.
So back to Cliff Seacrest.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was thinking about this, right? Because I looked on his IMDb, and he is a quintessential that bloke actor, with the exception of The Rocketeer. Mm-hmm. And he's like the only person in The Rocketeer who didn't go on to have like a really good career, because the bad guys, Timothy Dalton and Jennifer Connelly's in it, and I can't I think even the guy who plays like the scientist who's working with him. If you
Howard Hughes is played by Locke from Lost.
Yeah, if you've never watched The Rocketeer, but you've seen a Marvel movie, you've seen The Rocketeer.
Yeah, if you've seen Captain America: The First Avenger, you've seen The Rocketeer.
Yeah,
it's the same director.
And it's very much like it's a movie that didn't get a lot of love at the time, but it's like the blueprint now for how you do a superhero movie. Yeah.
It's one of these ones where I've been subtly mentioning to Laura, I might actually see if she wants to do it tonight, about watching Tremors, because she claims that she's never seen Tremors. I'm fairly sure that we've watched it together, but
R.I.P.
maybe
Fred
not.
Ward.
R.I.P. Fred Ward, yeah, exactly. But Tremors, along with The Rocketeer, I think are basically perfect films.
Yeah. Okay, let me say this. The Rocketeer is the best possible movie you could make from the premise of The Rocketeer. The problem is that the premise of The Rocketeer is, what if a superhero, what's his superpower? Oh, he's got a jetpack and a gun.
Yeah.
It's like, there needed to be
Nazis.
there needed to be like an extra thing. But once you've got the jetpack, it's like, all you can really do with a jetpack is like get to a thing, and then once you're there, he just shoots people.
But he wears like a perfect pulp costume, like an Art Deco style helmet and like a perfect like leather jacket.
And it's got a perfect in-universe explanation that the big fin on it is like a rudder, so that you can steer. Yeah, he's great. He's genuinely. I was looking into this because I was like, this character turns up in Star Trek, and I think this was supposed to be. So, are you familiar with the character of Harry Mudd from TNG? From the original series. So he's in like 2 episodes, and he's been in some Discovery, and I think this character might have been intended to be like a Harry Mudd, where they were going to like come back to him. Yeah. And like if he'd like been like the Pontiac Bandit in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where like once an season we get an episode where we check in on him and he's into more crazy scrapes, and like you eventually stumble across him as like the king of a planet that's like trying to join the Federation, or he's like a high-ranking diplomat, and they're like, what the fuck? But instead we just got this one episode, and I think that's a real shame. I would have really liked to see some more about this guy.
He's in Lower Decks.
Is he?
Yeah, and it's almost it's like a bit part. He's a DJ.
If anybody involved in New Trek is out there listening, and I get that you guys want to keep doing your spin-offs and stuff, and I understand. New ideas are hard. Why not just recycle the old stuff? A fucking series in which fucking Okona is like flying around in his fucking freighter, and it's like Firefly sort of stuff, but in the Federation. Is a license to print money.
Yeah, because I watched the Strange New Worlds pilot,
Oh, is it? I've not seen it yet.
I actually quite liked it. Yeah, it's as new Trek goes, it's the best. It has the potential to. I don't, because the thing is, like,
it's currently the highest rated Star Trek TV show on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it is good. But the thing is, right, and what I came away from it going, what I really liked about that is that it really brought back the optimism. Like, it feels really optimistic. The first episode is very Star Trek, and no one fucking cries or anything. Like, it's just a perfect, nice, self-contained little episode that made me feel really good, and it made me feel optimistic about the future, which is ultimately what Star Trek is supposed to do, right? Now, the other show that does that is, of course, the Orville, and the sort of trope of the Orville being the best modern Trek. I do subscribe to that for the most part, but I think that Strange New Worlds has the chance to rival the Orville. Obviously, it won't. The thing about the Orville is it's a love letter to TNG, whereas Strange New Worlds is still trying to find its feet as to what it really is.
My only thing I have to say about Strange New Worlds is, like, so I've kept up on Discovery without watching it.
Yeah.
So I know that Pike has seen his future in a time crystal or some shit. And I know that if the people making Strange New Worlds are going to be tempted to change that, and I just want to make it clear, you cannot. The fact that he knows that's on the horizon makes the character so much better and more interesting to me.
That's part of the episode. That's part, because he acknowledges that it's it's in about, because he speaks to Spock, and they've kind of, well, I said this, right, because I said to Laura, they've really sexied Spock up, but they, at the same time, well, Zachary Quinto Spock was quite a sexy Spock.
Yeah.
And even original flavour Leonard Nimoy was like a big sex symbol.
Yeah.
So the new Spock, they've appropriately sexied him. And he has a conversation with Pike, and I won't get into it because it's a bit of a spoiler, but basically Pike says it's going to happen in about a decade. So they have time, and we know that they're bringing in Kirk.
Yeah, and so, like, Vulcans, specifically, like, Vulcans, like, in Star Trek, like, so in the first episode of TNG, McCoy turns up, and he's, like, supposed to be, like, 152, because that's how long people live with future technology. But, like, naturally, Vulcans are, like, their natural lifespan is, like, 200-300 years. So, like, Spock being there makes sense. Spock must have had... Basically, from Spock's perspective, Kirk is basically a pet. But yeah, I think that looks really fucking good. Okay.
Right,
Something about this episode, I want to say. Data says laughter is, like, innately human. But if I was to say to you, name an animal that laughs, hyena? I think hyena comes in at the top. It's like what they're known for. At the top,
right? So if you went to an open mic night and the audience was comprised entirely of hyenas, you'd be like, well, this is better.
Yeah, no, I've got so much material on Pride Rock. I've got a lot of different stuff about the differences between male and female lions.
What's black and white and red all over? A zebra after another animal's killed it, and then we've scavenged it.
Don't you hate it when you just want to eat food and you're not considered part of the circle of life for story reasons? No, I just mean like if you said to, like, if you're on Family Fortunes and somebody goes, we asked you to name an animal that laughs, I reckon more people would go like hyena, because you wouldn't naturally think of yourself straight away. Chimps laugh, and chimps, like, hyenas have like a thing that sounds like a laugh, but chimps laugh very specifically. Like, if a chimp falls over in front of another chimp, that chimp will laugh.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it's classic material. I'm saying, like, you show them some... If you could get another chimp to do, like, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy stuff, I think the chimps watching it would have a whale of a time.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, where's that branch of evolutionary?
What are some other animals that laugh, Ed? Right, we've got chimps, we've got hyenas, we've got people.
Yeah.
Presumably bonobos.
Presumably bonobos.
If you're a racist and you don't count a bonobo and a chimp as two different animals.
I've never seen a baboon laugh, but they seem angry.
Tough crowd.
Monkeys... monkeys laugh, I think, don't they?
Never seen a fish laugh. But then, would we know?
I don't know. I'm assuming you could, like, a parrot could be taught to laugh. But then, is it real? If you teach a parrot to laugh when it detects the natural timing of a punchline, I would feel that was patronising. I don't need your trained automatic response laugh parrot. I'll go.
Yeah. And also, what I quite liked at the end of this one is that Data goes out and he does his set. He goes back to Joe Piscopo in the little stand-up section, and he tries the jokes and they don't work. So he says, "Try a joke with an audience." So he asks for an audience program, and
this is Data's. By the way, this is Data's first ever gig.
Yeah,
and he gets a full audience.
Nailed it.
No, screw that. Sorry, Data. Your first ever gig should be in the back room of a pub in front of like 8 people.
Yeah, the only person who should be watching you should be the MC, who's looking at his watch to make sure that he isn't going to miss the last tube. So, he asks for an audience, and the audience come in, and then he slowly realizes over the set that the audience, the holodeck audience, are just going to laugh at everything. He doesn't earn the laughs, and so he decides that that's going to be the end to stand-up comedy career. And obviously, the lesson of tonight's episode, it's so easy to make audiences laugh that being a stand-up comic is ultimately completely unfulfilling. Would you agree?
Would I agree that being a stand-up comedian is ultimately unfulfilling? Yeah, it is. You're seeking validation to fill a hole inside you that won't be fixed. It might be temporarily. You might think it's a good idea, but eventually the high will wear off, and you'll realise that thousands and thousands of years of human evolution and development have led to you, what is essentially a dancing monkey, just to try to keep the masses slightly entertained. And also, sometimes the audience don't laugh, and you'll hate them, and then you'll realise that those people you hate are the same people who laugh at your jokes, and then you'll feel bad about yourself.
And you think to yourself, no one goes to a comedy show not looking for a good time. So really, you are the one who has truly fucked up, and the thing is, right, even if you're on a winning streak, the dark days are always gonna come. You know, you're never gonna get rid of that. That's always gonna be the place. Like that dark place is always going to exist inside your mind, and really, the only job that you have, the only coping mechanism you really have, is to figure out how to deal with it when it comes and how to roll with the punches. And that's why I'm really glad that a episode of Star Trek specifically about stand-up comedy, spoken about by two fairly versed stand-up comedians, is likely the episode of this show that has the least amount of jokes in it, because that feels thematically appropriate.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Well, there is one other thing I do want to talk about this episode, which was you last week raised the very interesting question, which was, do you think Picard probably said, let's not use the holodeck for a while?
Yeah.
Data has no ability to recognise patterns and has immediately gone back. Because he's with the way he's speaking to that holodeck, I was like, he could so easily create a super intelligent sentient comedian, which would, I imagine, just be Dimitri Martin.
Yeah.
Like having a man standing on stage having to dumb down his own intelligence so he could communicate with the people in front of him on any meaningful level. I would love one thing I want from this series, though. I've realised this. Wish I could have a holographic bringer mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I just a little observation that I made. So the two ships that both come to claim Okona, they are at a level of they're at a technological level where they only have lasers which can't penetrate the hull. They can't penetrate the navigational shields, right? So there's no point. Like the Enterprise is in absolutely no danger whatsoever.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
At one point, I think is it Worf is like yellow alert.
Yeah, they've locked on, which under the regulations means we have to go to yellow alert.
Yeah.
So they go to yellow alert.
And Picard with just like a big grin on his face is like, yeah, all right, I guess so. Again, doesn't tell anyone about it. So I'm wondering, is there someone down in 10 Forward who hears yellow alert and then immediately replies, uh-oh, what's the holodeck done now?
If somebody who listens to this needs to like knock together a fucking spreadsheet for us of when, because more baffling than our regularly reoccurring segment of this cannot be and is not how the holodeck works. What constitutes a yellow fucking alert is like they don't yet like. I'm gonna throw this out there. If Q arrives on the bridge, that should just be a yellow alert instantly.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to turn up and be like, I forgot my shoes. It's like...
Yeah, because a yellow light, like an amber light on a traffic light is supposed to be, don't go yet, but be aware that you will be going imminently.
Yeah.
So is a yellow alert just, don't stop what you're doing.
No, but make sure you're dressed.
Yeah. A bit like when I used to work in game, we used to have 2 stages of a fire alarm, and the first stage was we had to lock the cabinets that had all of the what we called the live games in, like the ones in the boxes.
Are you suggesting the people who ran game were more concerned with the merchandise than with people's lives? That only completely fits with my experience having worked in game.
Did you work in game?
I worked in game for a very long period. In like I did the Christmas that the Wii came out.
I did that Christmas.
The best moment of my entire career working retail was that Christmas Eve, which was the point where we were told as soon as the shop was closed, we could close, and we'd been open till like some nights as late as 10 because of the number of people having to get through, and we got to like 7. And there was one woman in the shop, and she was having a go at us for having ruined her child's Christmas, because on Christmas Eve we just didn't have a Wii that she could buy. And my manager came over to me and said, so here's the deal, I'm going to go upstairs right now and turn off the CCTV, and whatever she says you've said, I'm going to say she didn't. I want her out of here so we can go home. And I got to I told everybody else, like, you should go into the back room because nobody else needs to be risking getting in trouble for this. And I got to like explain to this woman to her face, like, no, I haven't ruined your kid's Christmas. The fact that you waited until Christmas Eve to come and buy a game that every console that everybody wants, it's been on the news that you can't get this. The fact that you don't care enough about your son to have considered getting his Christmas present ready before Christmas Eve is why your son's Christmas has been ruined. Now, if you're not going to get out of this fucking shop in the next 5 minutes, I am not going to be able to magic up a fucking Wii for you. Now, fuck off. And it was, especially after that Christmas, it was very, very, very good. We never got a complaint because I think she realised that we'd just go, no, she made it up.
Yeah. I remembered my manager 2 days before Christmas Eve had to put up a sign on the, like, in the front window. No, it wasn't on the window, sorry, it was on the desk at the, like, non-service part. And it was just an A4 sheet that just, the headline, Wii availability, and underneath it just said, please do not ask our staff about the availabilities of Wii's in this store, because a kick in the teeth may be seen as offensive to some customers.
It was, if anybody's ever worked retail, you'll know what kind of hell like a console launch Christmas can be. but I feel it should be mentioned that the Wii Christmas, was it the same year? Was it the same year as the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 were all out and impossible to get, I think. Or it might be, no, it was this Christmas after.
Yes, it was 2006.
Yeah, the Xbox and the PlayStation both came out for the next year, which was also when the Wii ran out again.
No. So the Xbox came out. The Xbox came out 2006. The PS3 came out the year later, and in between came out the Wii.
Yeah. But yeah, it was impossible to get a 360 for that Christmas either. And then by the next Christmas, the Wii ran out again. You couldn't get a PS3, and all the Xbox 360s were gone as well. It was because everybody who was trying to get a PlayStation was like, "Oh, I'll get this instead." Yeah. It's like, yeah, your kids. Did your kids specifically ask for a PlayStation? Yeah, they'll be fine with an Xbox.
Yeah,
that won't cause any problems. Well, you're not going to take any extra batteries, a second control pad or memory card. Yeah, fine. I'm certain it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Those were the days, man. I liked that job.
Fucking.
I liked alphabetizing the pre-owned games.
I liked the managing of the shop, like getting everything in place. I did not enjoy the customers.
I enjoyed
coming in and being like, I would like Mario for the Xbox, please. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
No, it does. My son's friend says his dad's got it. Goes, did he mention that he had like an uncle who worked at Nintendo? Yeah, he's a fucking liar.
My friend, who I worked with in the shop, she once had a grandmother come up to her and say, my wee boy or my wee girl wants a game for this DS thing. Have you got 9 gay dogs?
Oh.
She laughed so hard she had to leave. She just had to leave that conversation.
That's amazing.
I also discovered, I don't know, I mean, this will be of no use to anyone, but I discovered that I had a talent, like a very specific talent. When people came in and they'd be like, when's the Wii, and it'd be Christmas, when's the Wii Fit coming back into stock? And I'd be, April. And it turns out April is the date that you could come in and buy a Wii Fit off the shelf. And I was able to do this. I never failed at this. And the thing is, people were always like, no, it can't be. Like, when's Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics coming out? And I'd go, I reckon you'll be able to buy that round about mid-March, like just coming in off the shop. And it's every single time I had 100% success rate with it. And it's something I've never been able to brag about to anyone.
I once got in a lot of trouble because a kid came in to, like, it was very late in the PlayStation 2's life, and he was like getting a PlayStation 2, and it was clear that his mum, they didn't have a lot of money, and his like mum had been like, well, you got to trade in your old games, but they'd waited so long that nothing was of value, and he had a stack of PlayStation 1 games to trade in. And they were like, it was like, we can give you 50p for these. And I got in a lot of trouble because as I was going through them, I just took 2 out, put them to one side, and I was like, I won't let you trade these in. If you desperately need to get rid of these, I can go upstairs now, and I will give you £20 for Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 8. These are not 50p games. I cannot. And in all good conscience, and my boss was like, oh, you could just bought it like for £1 out of the thing. I was like, yeah, but that's not fair to a small child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I did that once. I bought an HD DVD drive off a guy for £10 because it scanned in at £1. And I went, mate, I'll give you £10 for this because we'll sell this for about 20. I said, so I'll give you £10 straight up.
Yeah, never trade in your stuff. eBay it all.
Aye, that thing.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was the outrageous Okona. Do you think as well, because they're like humanoid, that was written as like an Irish name and then they changed it to a space name?
Again, that's literally something that Laura said. She was like, that guy's name was Okona in the script, and they just spaced it up.
Yeah. Good episode though.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, but sorry, there wasn't a lot of Star Trek discussion in this Star Trek podcast episode, but
they did an episode about literally one of me and Mark's shared interests that isn't Star Trek. So it's like we're probably not, if they ever do a fucking Star Trek episode about fucking Dungeons and Dragons, we're probably going to spend most of that episode talking about D&D, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
But anyway, thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.